Welcome to the Vintage Ballers Podcast. I'm your host, Brad Coreno. On today's episode, we have former NBA veteran C.J. Watson joining the show. C.J. played college basketball at the University of Tennessee before spending a couple seasons in Europe and the D-League before eventually making it to the NBA, where he spent 10 seasons. So without further ado, welcome C.J. Watson. I followed your career all the way back to Tennessee. So you're someone who I'm really familiar with, ever since those days back in, 04, 05, 06. So
yeah.
It's cool to have you on the show, man, and to go over, some of the highlights of your career and what basketball meant to you. So starting off here, if we can go back to your days in Vegas, when did you really first fall in love with the game? And did you have any favorite teams, any favorite players back then?
My favorite player was Kobe and obviously Jordan. But I think I just played basketball just to play it, to stay out of trouble, and then play with my brother and my dad, because my parents played basketball. My whole family, aunts and uncles, everyone played basketball, so we're a kind of basketball family. But I just really played like I said, just to stay out of trouble. And as I got older, I seen that I was getting better and better, and kind of took a love for the game, just playing for the love of the game, and playing for competition and just playing for fun, really.
At what age, CJ, did you kind of begin to think like, I can make a career out of this? This isn't just something I'm doing for fun.
Honestly, it didn't really hit me until I got to college, like after my first or second year. Before then, I would just play to be the best, to work hard, to get a free education in college, because I knew my parents couldn't pay for it. So that was my way of, trying to get to that next level and get to college, because only way I can get there was through education, academically or athletically. So that's what I had to do. And that's kind of what I pushed myself to do. And really, after my first year, I played for the USA team with a lot of different NBA players, Darren Williams, Mo Ager, D Brown, JJ Redick. We all played in the USA team, and guys were talking about leaving after their freshman year. And I was like, oh, this is really real. I didn't really know about it then, and I really never talked about it. I never really dreamed about it or had any conversations about it. I think that was really when it kind of hit me that I can be a professional, playing with the best players, and just kind of making my name for myself.
So let's go back to your Bishop Gorman days in Vegas. Did you, at that time, before you were recruited for colleges, were you thinking to yourself like, okay, I might go to a Tennessee, I might go to a major D1 college, or were you not even thinking that at the time? You're just trying to play ball and whatever happens, happens?
Yeah, I was just going to play ball. I was just going to kind of be the best. My freshman year, I didn't even play at all. I played like maybe 3 or 4 games, and I tore my hamstring. And then after that, I just kind of rehabbed and watched the game from afar, from the bench. I think I learned a lot just watching the game from the bench, and learned how players act. I went to a lot of varsity games, so I can be kind of familiar with the crowd atmosphere, the refs, the teams, the players, all that kind of stuff. And really, I never really thought about college until my junior year, when I first got my first letter, actually.
Why Tennessee? I know Bruce Pearl was there at the time, and obviously it's a great program, but were there any other reasons why Tennessee kind of pulled you into that? Was there a reason specifically?
So my dream school, and the school I wanted to go to, was UCLA. I actually I was on an unofficial visit when Steve Lavin was the coach there, and I was going to commit there, but the next year Steve Lavin got fired. So I just kind of like opened up my recruiting process. Tennessee is where my family's from. And at the time, they were going to give me the keys to the ship. So I just said, why not go here, and try to build something. And it's in one of the best conferences in the country, SEC. Play against a lot of great players, make a name for yourself, and see what happens after that.
So going to that Tennessee team, and again, that was a fun team to watch. And I'm from Ohio, so I was an Ohio State fan, and I always pay attention to the other conferences, though.
Yeah.
In the SEC, obviously, you guys are loaded. You guys always were. And you guys had, Chris Lofton, Major Wingate. I think it was Juwan Smith on that team. And I think
Dan
Patterson.
Bradshaw.
Yeah, exactly. All those guys. And that was a great team. And I think even a couple years later, we played you. Ohio State played Tennessee like in 08, I think. And you should have beat us, really. It must have been like, I think it was 08, and it was right after you would have graduated.
But, I think I watched that game from overseas, I think. It
Yep.
was in a tournament. Yeah.
And you guys were killing us all game, and we came back at the end and won, but it was a close game. But anyways, so going back to those days, how fun was it playing for Tennessee and with Lofton and all those guys? And what did you learn the most at Tennessee and playing for Bruce Pearl?
It was fun. So my first 3 years, I had Buzz Peterson as a coach. He was
Okay.
more of a traditional Dean Smith coach. We ran a lot of offense. With Bruce is like a player's coach. He lets you just go and play to your strengths, whatever those strengths are. He kind of heightens them and lets you just kind of go from there. And I think that's kind of offense I wanted to run was a up and down, run and gun, shoot threes, drive to the basket, fast break kind of offense. And in Bruce's offense, it kind of played to my strengths, driving to the basket, finding players, shooting. And I think I learned most from Bruce, just finishing at the basket. He has this saying, tough twos, and we practice it all the time in full court pressing. Just a lot of communication between the point guard and the coach. I think I learned from him.
I didn't realize about Peterson about Buzz. I didn't realize he was the coach for those first 3 years. So
Yeah.
it's interesting. Yeah, again, those days for you, I'm sure were pretty transformative. And, you went undrafted in 06. And then did you expect to be drafted or did you think to yourself, okay, this could go either way?
I did actually expect to be drafted. I think I had maybe like 7 or 8 workouts. I think to me, I did good in maybe 3 of them.
Okay.
In a lot of those workouts, I went up against some top point guards who were obviously ranked higher than me. But at the time of the draft, the night of the draft, my agent called me and said, Detroit's going to draft you with the last pick. And the pick came and they didn't call my name. So it definitely was definitely mad, sad, all these emotions, and just kind of thought about my next step from there with my agent, and that step was pretty much just go overseas because at the time I didn't have any money. I was broke, so this been the most money I've made ever in my life, so I might as well just go and take it.
Oh yeah.
Definitely in another country, but I'm always up for new challenges and testing myself, and I think that's just what I did. Just go overseas and try to see live a different life, learn a new culture, learn some Italian here and there, and just kind of travel the world.
What was that like playing overseas like that?
It was different, especially in my first year coming out of college. I think I was 21, going over there by myself. A lot of my teammates that I played with, they had already been overseas maybe 3 or 4 years, some in the NBA, and then they came to finish their careers over there. And it was different. Just kind of feel like I grew up on my own, learned to cook a little more than I did in college. And I kind of just grew up. My first year, I didn't really like it that much because I had a different coach every month. So
Wow.
yeah.
Why
I was
was
trying
that?
to learn.
Or they just
They just got fired.
really? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Pretty brutal over there, I guess.
Yeah,
Wow.
they definitely wanted to win. It was a new team that came up in the A League, whatever, a small city, and they wanted to win. They had
Man, they
great
don't give you
fans.
much time.
Yeah, they didn't have much time at all, and I think they came in a new coach every month. So I was just trying to learn a new offense, then trying to get used to a new coach, and then one gets fired, then trying to do the same thing over and over. It was just tough for me my first year.
Oh, I can't imagine that. I mean, every month. That's just going every year with a new coach would be a challenge, but
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah.
So you also played in the CBA, correct?
No, I never played in the CBA, just the D League.
D League. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
So the D League, where did you play and what was that experience like compared to Europe?
The D League, I played in Rio Grande Valley for the Vipers, and the whole reasoning behind that was I didn't want to go back overseas. I didn't like my first year, and I was contemplating kind of going back or staying home because I just had a daughter, and I wanted to kind of just give the NBA one last shot. So I said, let's not go back overseas. Let's stay in the D League. Let's try to get a call up and see what happens. And if it doesn't happen, then I'll go work at Walmart or something, whatever. I'll find a new career or whatever. But that was the whole reasoning behind that. And I think I just learned to be a professional in the D League, learning what it took to really put in the work to be an NBA player, going early before practice, staying late after practice, getting your weights in, doing all the little stuff that I know every NBA player says they do, but actually doing it and seeing all the results from it.
CJ, it's interesting because I never knew that you were undrafted until I actually looked you up. I knew you at Tennessee, but I just assumed that you were always with the Warriors to start your career right from there. I didn't even think about that. So it's kind of interesting because you had such a nice NBA career. I never knew you were undrafted. And there's a couple other guys I talked to who are undrafted as well. And it seems like you guys kind of have a chip on your shoulders and the game.
Yeah.
And it really kind of makes you appreciate what you have when you get it. So, I was reading how Don Nelson took a liking to you, obviously, and did you guys, he was impressed with you. Did he invite you to work out for him? How did that come about with the Warriors and your start in 2008?
In the D League, I actually got a call up. So when a call up, you just really have a 10-day contract. And at the time that when I was going to get called up, there's actually two teams who were going to call me up: the Charlotte Bobcats and the Warriors. And I'm kind of grateful that Warriors called me up. Who knows where I've been if the Bobcats call me up? But the first day I got there, Coach Nelson told me, he's going to throw me in the fire. He's going to see what I have. And he's seen a lot of tape on me. He likes my game. And that's really pretty much about it. That was the basis of our conversation. And just like he said, he threw me in the fire. I would go in sporadically in certain games. It was just kind of erratic because I only had a 10-day contract. For those 10 days, you're kind of walking on eggshells. You want to be on time for practice. You want to make sure you're doing everything right. Then when the game comes, you want to make sure you're playing well. You're not having a bad game. So just in those 10 days can be kind of hectic, and just kind of your emotions are kind of everywhere.
I can't imagine that. And when you know that your career could potentially be on the line, and
Right.
you're proving yourself every single day, I mean, that's got to be an emotional roller coaster for the most part. And I think it's playing for Don Nelson especially. I mean, that's a legendary coach right there, and that's one of the greatest coaches of all time. So that had to be. I'm sure you were thinking, this is every 10 days. I mean, it had to be just nerve wracking. But when did you kind of get your feel and think to yourself, like, I could play in this league? Like, I can make this team and I can play in this league?
I think really just my first game, because my first game, he threw me in there, and I think I finished like 11 points and like 3 rebounds, whatever. But I think just playing and just kind of making that first shot and, making certain moves against certain players, I just felt like I can play in this league. Just got to gain the confidence, learn the NBA game a little better. And I think from there, my confidence just grew and grew each game, each month, each practice, each year, and things like, and so on and so on. So I think it was just all about the confidence.
So CJ, you played with Barron, correct, for a little bit?
Yeah.
And did he, did you learn anything from Barron at that time? I think he might have been hurt. I know he was kind of hurt on and off, but they had that run in 2007, obviously, where they had that the Golden State run where they won the second round and they upset Dallas in the first round. But so that coming year, they still had a lot of talent, but it was kind of the in between, Steph and Clay and those guys coming down the line, and then of course,
right.
So what was it like playing with a Baron Davis and was Steven Jackson on that team?
Yep, Steven Jackson, Al Harrington, Monte Ellis.
All those guys. Okay.
Yeah, all of them. Matt Barnes. Just from Baron, I think I just learned from just kind of. I feel like I learned more off the court than I did on the court with him. But off the court, he's business savvy. Always doing things to further his business and his brand. But on the court, just how hard he worked, and the beating that he kind of took every night. And I think that's why they called me up, was to kind of give him a rest, because at the time I think he was injured here and there, and they wanted to give him some rest. And I think at the time we were like 1 or 2 games behind Denver that year to make the playoffs, and I don't think we made the playoffs that year. We missed it by 1 game. But I think just the load that he takes on every night, the physical beating, and just kind of preparing yourself. I seen him always early in the gyms, stretching, lifting weights, and even after practice, lifting weights and stuff like that. But I didn't really get to practice with him a lot because, he was a star player, so star players really don't practice that much. But I definitely got to play some one-on-one with him and learn some stuff from him.
He was a heck of a player. I mean, he actually had a stint here in Cleveland for a little bit, for like, I think it was 2 or 3 months, but we actually beat Miami that year. And that was when, LBJ and those guys first got together.
Right.
And we traded, I can't remember who we traded out there, but we got, no, he was in the Clippers. I'm sorry. He was with the Clippers. And then we traded Mo Williams, and I think we got a draft pick out of that. And they gave us Barron for a couple months to take on his contract. But long story short, just seeing him here, and he was a heck of a player, heck of a talent. I think he never really gets the credit he deserves, but one of the better point guards in that generation.
For sure.
So then the following year, or a year and a half later, you obviously Steph joins the team, and he, back then, CJ, you were, I mean, watching a young Steph Curry come in, did you have any idea he was going to turn out to be the superstar that he was? And when, that rookie season especially, I think a lot of people were doubting him. And, they thought he was picked way too high and that he's only going to be a streaky shooter every now and then. That's it. Did you see something in him that first year, CJ, that you thought this kid could be special?
I think we all did. I think that's why the Warriors drafted him. To say that we knew he'd be the superstar that he is now, I mean, I doubt anyone could say that. They'd probably be lying if they said they thought that. But definitely you saw flashes of how great he could be. especially offensively. Obviously, defensively, he wasn't the greatest, but even now, he still works hard to be the best defensive player that he can be. And I think he puts the time and the effort in. Obviously, he gets a lot of genes and genetics from his dad and mom playing, but I think the work that he put in is definitely showing, and offensively and defensively, and just the way he carries himself.
Yeah, he really. I remember watching him at Davidson, and he just. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. And I was one of those doubters. I didn't think he would be as good in the NBA. I just, I thought he was always too small, or he's not going to do. Well, I was dead wrong, like
Right.
most of us were. And I mean, I really
Right.
didn't.
Yeah.
I did not see that coming. I thought. I mean, and being in Cleveland, I saw him firsthand here. Obviously, we
Yeah.
played him 4 times in the finals, and I mean, I've never seen anything quite like him and Clay in the backcourt shooting wise. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. And I don't think we ever will see a backcourt like that anytime soon.
Yeah. I don't
You
think
could
so
argue
either.
they're the 2 of the top 5, 4 greatest shooters of all time.
Right.
So, but anyways, that year, I think it was 2009-10, you had a 40-point game against Sacramento.
Yeah.
Where I think 16-23, and you went off. Was that the greatest game of your career overall, or there wasn't another game that you thought you actually played better?
I think there was a couple more games. I think in that same year, I think I had like 20 and 10 against Steve Nash. And then I think I had like 35 and like 8 against Darren Williams. Those are all like playoff teams that year.
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like those games, that 40-point game was a good scoring game. But I think the other games were better because they were big scoring games also, but also on the road and against all-star point guards and all-star teams. And I think those games are just a testament to the work that I was putting in, and the time and effort, and also the expansion of my game that Coach Nelson just let all of his players kind of just do. If you were hot that night, he called plays for you. He would find ways to get you the ball, and also just a testament to my teammates also because they did a lot of the work also getting me the ball and finding me in the right spots.
So, you go from Golden State to Chicago, I believe, in 2010.
Yeah.
And you're playing with D Rose, and that's obviously the year they kind of gear up to try to beat Miami. The big 3 just got together. So you were actually, I mean, you've been on some interesting teams in your career. And,
Yeah.
you had playing with D Rose that MVP year. How special is that to be on that team? And you guys had a heck of a team. I mean, if it wasn't for, the big 3, you guys would have made the finals. Yeah. And, do you guys think, I mean, you would have played Dallas. I mean, who knows what could have happened. But I mean, how good do you think that team at Nucleus could have been if it wasn't for running into the buzzsaw that's LeBron James?
I think we could have been great. I think we had like a 2-year run. I think it kind of ended a little too short. But I definitely think we would have beat the Mavs for sure in the finals. Like you said, we ran into LeBron and D Wade and Chris Bosh, and those guys are just tough to beat in a 7-game series. But back to D Rose, I think he was just that year. I seen him grow from the year that I got in the NBA to the MVP that he was. It's just the things that he was doing. I never seen anyone do, dunking on people. How fast he was, athletic, and just really just expanding his game. And now he's still a pretty good player in the NBA. He's not the MVP, but he's still, giving people a run for their money.
He is. Yeah, he definitely is. And going up against him in practice every day, what kind of, what did that bring to your game?
I think a lot because every time I went for a regular game, I feel like I never would see D Rose. So I feel like anyone else I could match up against. If I can give me and D Rose can exchange buckets in practice here and there, and I know going to the game, no one else is going to compare to this guy. My confidence is kind of sky high, and that's kind of how I approached it every night. I knew that I could go out there and just play my game. I wasn't going to be D Rose. It's going to be CJ, and at the end of the day, I can live with that.
Absolutely. So that year in 2011, you guys played Miami, obviously the Eastern Conference Finals, and I think you had a 1-0 lead to start the series.
Yeah.
What was your feeling going into the rest of that series? Did you guys truly believe that, we can beat this team, or was there a doubt like, okay, it's still LeBron, D Wade, these guys, this isn't, I mean, obviously you think you can win, but did you go into it thinking like, this is going to be 7-gamer, or do you think that, we can take these guys in 5 or 6, or what was the mindset going into there?
Well, we were real confident going into the series. We definitely knew we weren't going to sweep them or anything like that. But we were definitely confident because I think in the regular season we might have lost maybe once, and we played them 4 times. So we were still definitely confident. We felt like we had the formula to beat a LeBron, D Wade, Chris Bosh led team, and I think just those last 4 or 5 minutes of the game in the fourth quarter, we just couldn't score. I think that was the whole thing. Their defense kind of really just stepped up in the last 4 or 5 minutes and really kind of shut us down. And I think that was kind of really the tell of the series.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I think with their defense, especially, was probably the most underrated aspect of that team, especially with LeBron and D Wade. And Chris was an underrated defender, but
Right.
they can definitely D you up, no doubt about it. And
Right.
that's one of
Yeah.
the reasons they went to those four finals. It wasn't just because they could put up points. I mean, we knew that, but they could D up for sure.
Yeah.
So you go to, did you go to New Jersey next, and then Indiana after that, I believe?
Yeah. Brooklyn, Chicago for 2 years, then Brooklyn, then Indiana for 2 years.
Okay. I definitely remember the Indiana days because that's another team that was a heck of a team. I mean, David West and Paul George and George Hill and those guys and Hibbert, and
Yeah.
you guys had a great squad, and another team that took Miami right down to the wire and, Eastern
Yeah.
Conference Finals. So unfortunately, you ran into LeBron a couple different times, but,
Yeah.
that team, I thought you guys had size, you guys had, a lot of athletic ability, talent. And I remember a few games, I think LeBron had that game-winning layup against you, if I recall correctly.
Yep. The buzzer. Yep.
I mean, so it came right down to the wire. But
Yeah.
what do you remember the most about that series?
I think going into that series once again, we went into the series confident because we beat them a couple times in the regular season, and like I said, we just that's kind of just a testament to how great LeBron is because once again we run into another LeBron-led team and we can't get past them, so it's just hard to get past that guy. But we definitely had a lot of confidence going in. Another coach, Frank Vogel, who has a big defensive resume, who we thought we had the formula to beat those guys, and just came up short again.
So, in your years of playing in the NBA, give me 2 or 3 of your toughest matchups.
I would say just like position wise or like team wise.
Position wise, like just what guards gave you a lot of problems?
I think Tony Parker was one of my toughest assignments. I feel like because he was so fast, and especially in that San Antonio system. He had kind of the reins to do whatever, and the spacing was incredible. Then I would say I feel like Goran Dragic was pretty tough coming off the bench, and then obviously became a starter. And also I would say Darren Williams was probably one of the toughest guards to guard, I feel like.
D. Will is a heck of a player. And it's interesting that you mentioned Tony Parker because I think in 2014 when they beat the Heat in the finals, it was LeBron who said that was the best team basketball he's ever seen a team play. And I mean, I've never seen, they were putting up like 110, 120, and like no problem.
Yeah.
Force D
and
out.
their offense is definitely spaced and just so many options and so many ways they can beat you. And if you mess up one time, they're definitely going to pay.
That's exactly what it was. And I've never seen anything like that. I mean, even the Warriors with Durant, as scary as they were, that 14 Spurs team with Kawhi and them and Duncan and the big three, I mean, that was just a heck. I've never seen a team look that bad with that much talent. I mean, LeBron, D Wade, those guys, and they made them look real bad with how well they were playing. But yeah, that was beautiful basketball for sure.
Yeah.
And then of course Darren and Dragic and those guys are great. And Darren had a nice run too for a while. He was a bona fide all-star for many years. So another great player. You played after the NBA, you went to Turkey and played in Turkey.
Yep.
What was your experience and what made you want to go back, overseas, and what was that experience like?
I just wanted to go back and continue to play. I feel like I still could play and, just give me one last shot or whatever. And I like Turkey. I think the first time I went overseas, I really didn't enjoy it like I probably should have. I just kind of stayed in my apartment, played on the internet, made a whole bunch of different email accounts, AIM accounts, all that kind of stuff. I didn't really like go and sightsee like I probably should have. And I think I was just still mad about not being drafted. I think this time in Turkey, I sightseed a little more. I was older, more open to, going to travel more and just see different things and see what the world has to offer. And I feel like it was a better experience. I feel like.
That's great. I'm sure the age too, that difference of almost 10 years. You just have a different outlook on life. I mean, I'm in my late 30s now, and I have a very different outlook than I did 10 years ago, my 20s when I all, and you think it's like you don't know anything in your 20s, but you think you do.
Right.
But for all you listening in your 20s,
know everything. Yeah.
You think you have the world figured out, but you don't. But so, when you look back, at your career, I always, because a lot of people listening to this podcast are going to be younger. And, for the guys who really didn't know your career that much or didn't see you play, I mean, some of these kids have obviously because they remember you with Indiana, but what do you want your legacy to be, especially like 20, 30 years from now, CJ, when you tell your grandkids, this is what CJ Watson was all about on the basketball court? What do you want that legacy to be?
Just someone just who worked hard, who had a chip on his shoulder, who didn't let any circumstances of not being drafted kind of hinder his dream or his goal of getting to where he wanted to get to, and just a team player, someone who always wanted to help the next person out, and just really made the most out of any situation given to him.
And what are you up to nowadays?
Now I'm a book author, write children's books. I have
Really?
3 books that came out just now or this past year, and business owner, and really just take my kids to practice like I now with COVID, just sitting outside and outside the gym. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just just trying to stay safe and stay sane during these times.
Oh, I hear you. Where can people find those books?
You can find the books at cjpens.com, or you can go to Amazon and pick those up. 3 different books, 3 different stories to kind of just help kids and give them knowledge and things that I learned over time.
That's fantastic. I didn't know you're into that. That's great. Especially nowadays. I mean, we can use, as many role models as we can get. So that's fantastic.
Yeah. Just trying to be a positive role model for kids. And always growing up in Vegas, I really didn't have any besides my parents and mom. So I just want to, try to be that athlete, student athlete, that person to kind of, give back and do what's right.
That's great. So again, CJ, it was great having you on tonight, and, appreciate your time. Moving forward, where do you see, my last question to you will be, where do you see, the NBA going as far as a style of play? Do you see, right now, obviously it's all 3-point shooting and kind of spacing. What do you see the trend in the next 5 to 10 years, especially at your position at point guard? What do you see happening?
I think it might stay the same. You're going to see a lot of more bigger guards. I feel like 6'6" point guards, 6'5", 6'4", Russell Westbrook types, type of players who can score the ball, who are athletic, and I think that the big man will kind of not fade away, but he'll have his spurts. But I feel like the big man will come back in another 5 to 10 years because you're going to need that dominant force in the paint, and 3-point shooting I don't think is going anywhere from now.
No, I don't see it either. It's just it's a fun question to ask, but I'm the same way. I don't see that changing anytime soon. So.
Yeah. Small ball will probably be here for a long time.
Oh yeah. I know. I don't see that. I mean, even back when Shaq and those guys were back, back in the 90s and early 2000s, it was starting to slowly change a little bit, but we didn't know. I mean, I never knew it was going to be like this, but I remember seeing some kind of statistics, CJ, where they had, I think they call it the Steph Curry effect, but it was something, I think it was like a Duke Carolina game, like 15 years ago. They had shot, and I'm just making up a number, let's say, 15 threes in that game.
Yeah.
And then 10 years later, they shot like 45 threes. I mean, it was insane.
Right. Yeah.
The amount of difference. So yeah, I don't see that changing anytime soon, but it's, the game's evolving and it's fun to watch. I mean, no matter if you're old school or new school, I love the game no matter what. So I think it's it's a beautiful game for sure. And appreciate you coming on and talking about your career. And
no problem. Thanks for having me. Appreciate
absolutely, it. Man. So, come back some other time and we'll definitely do this again. And
for sure.
Enjoy your weight.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Yeah. Another hour.
Wow. Well, yeah, have a good one. And again, we'll be in touch for sure.
All right. Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right,
Thanks a lot.
CJ. Yep.
All right. Thank you.